Hello and welcome into the first episode of the newly revamped flagship podcast of Southern Ohio Sports Authority, Overtime, presented by Ohio Health. Along with John Bruce, I'm Dewey Dailey as we bring you into today's show. John, the nearly 3-year hiatus is finally over for Overtime, and we are back for the 2023 fall sports season. It should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it should be a good time. I'm looking forward to doing this. It's a lot of teams, a lot of leagues that we cover. We're going to do the best that we can to, represent all of them. Some weeks may have a little more representation for some of the schools, just depending on who we're able to see during the week and whatnot. But we look forward to getting as much information out for all these local athletes as we can, and we have some great sponsors, and it's should be a fun time.
Yeah, and the plan for today, and then we'll have an episode. Well, this will obviously be coming out on Wednesday, and then the plan is to have 2 uploads a week.
Mm-hmm.
And right now we're going to split it, volleyball and soccer on the first one, and then have a football one coming out on Thursdays usually, which will add up this week, but this one coming out on Wednesday will usually be, I think we're planning on Monday or Tuesday each week. So the plan is to be a dual weekly podcast. We'll see how that goes down the stretch here. But the plan for today, John, is to preview all 6 leagues, but it's really 7 or 8, depending on sometimes the SOC splits into one and the SHAC does as well. But for volleyball and soccer, boys and girls, we're going to preview each league, say, who won last year, who do we think might win this year, and some players to watch on those teams. So.
Yeah, and then we'll also, in the comments below, we'll put kind of a timestamp on when each sport is. So if you are not interested in boys soccer, but you are in girls soccer, you'll be able to just jump to that time. I can understand if you don't want to look at us the entire time, but we've got some good stuff on our table here.
Right. Hopefully we can add some.
It'd be kind of cool to add some stuff from around the area. But for now,
I have to stick with Wheaties boxes and
Jobu.
And Jobu in the back, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And we got Buc-ee's, which I don't know if you heard, is allegedly coming to the Dayton area.
I saw it was in Ohio, but I didn't really know. I know it said off of 70. Yeah. But I wasn't. Obviously, that's a pretty big highway, so I wasn't sure exactly where. But
honestly, to me, it's kind of a disappointment. I like to just go on southern vacations there, but it is a gas station, so I'm assuming I'll go there at some point.
There was a time where Pilot moving into Chillicothe was a pretty big deal, and eventually Sheetz probably will make its way down at some point, as it's in Circleville, and they just put one in South Bloomfield, I think, last winter. So
and also we're in the McGillicuddy Farms studio,
the McGillicuddy Kennels studio.
Yes. So we thank them for allowing us to set up in here, and it should be a good time.
Yeah, and without further ado, John, we can jump right into things. We'll go volleyball, and then we'll go boys soccer, and then we'll wrap up with girls soccer at the end. Like John said, we'll have timestamps. So if you want to, go to one specific sport or one specific league in that sport, it'll be a lot easier that way. So John, if you want to kick things off with SVC volleyball, we can get things rolling here.
Yeah, I believe volleyball season starts on Saturday. I know the SVC had their preview on Monday night, which is kind of a strange night to have it, but they had it at Westfall's new facility off Williamsport. It's a beautiful facility, a really nice step up for them.
From the dome.
Yeah, so, and it's air conditioned, which is the biggest thing. Is I didn't go to it, mostly because I didn't know it was going to be in the new facility. I thought it was going to be in the dome, and the dome is not air conditioned.
Gets pretty warm in there.
Pretty warm in the fall. So, but going to the SVC, Southern Valley Conference, the 2022 league winner was Adena. They went 24-3, 13-1 in the league. They were the regional runner-up. Now they returned Grace Townsend, who had an historic season for them, an outstanding setter, all-around player, Eva Kruger, Brianna Bossert, Brinley Preston, and more also from that team. So, they'll be right back in the thick of the SVC race and the district race as well, but they graduated Hannah Burns and Sydney Fogelsong, who were major hitters for them. I know the Quinniff girl was another one that they graduated.
Right. Yep.
So they have a lot of talent coming back, but they also graduated a good bit. Now, my prediction on who will win in 2023, and this is not a homer pick, is the Union of Shermans. They finished 19-6 last year. They're district runner-up. They went 5 sets a lot last year, and they were working on some stuff with their setter situation, and it wasn't until late in the year where everything kind of got rolling for them. That's how they got to that district final. In Division II, they returned the bulk of their team. It's very senior heavy, and it's also in their second year with coaches Jimmy Hutton and Paul Tenedo, which they have a history of success, as they had some really good teams at Southeastern, just outstanding coaching staff. But I really like the senior heavy lineup that they have. A kid like Morgan Daniels was hurt the majority of last year. She's back and fully healthy, and that's going to be a major point for them to have just a big rotation that they're going to be able to play. Now, for me, a player to watch from that team, where I mentioned all these seniors, is actually a junior, Jade Stewart. It's a team loaded with seniors: Ella Cutright, Daniels, as I mentioned, Abby Marshall, Megan Miller, Emma Speck, Madeline Wetzel, all just really good, talented seniors. But then you had Stewart, who as a sophomore led the Shermans in kills and aces, and also brings in an elite athleticism around the net for the Tanks. I think a player like her mixed with Cutright can really possibly put them over the top. It's still Adina's league, so I think Adina's going to be really tough. Westfall's going to be really good again. They return a lot. They got going throughout the year last year, and it seems like they're always right there. Huntington's going to be improved, and Southeastern, they have a first-year coach, but it's a good program. Coach Coker did not leave the cupboard bare there, and SVC volleyball is very good top to bottom.
Right.
So even the lower level teams in league play, like a Piketon and Paint Valley, won tournament games last year. So, I think those two are going to have some difficulties overall this year, but they'll bring it every night and should make for some fun seasons there. So, Dewey, you want to cover the Frontier Athletic Conference?
Yeah, for the FAC last year, it was Miami Trace, 17-5 overall, 10-0 in the league, and not only 10-0 in the league, they only lost one league set. So that's 30 set wins, only one set loss, and that was to Chillicothe in their first matchup. So after that, it's a clean sweep for the rest of the year. Now, last year, Miami Trace had 8 players with 49 or more sets played. Okay, well, 6 of them just graduated. So they only have 2 players coming back with pretty much 50 sets played last year. And of those 6, you have Courtney Carter, Sophia Parsons, and Gracie Ferguson, who had 694 assists on the team. The next closest had 26.
Yeah, that's a big piece to.
So 94% of your assists in 2022 just graduated. So obviously that's going to be a big spot to fill. And then obviously you have Addison Butts coming back, who, funny enough, was 23rd out of our 30 players to watch, and there were 1 or 2 players in the FAC ranked above her, which, as the FAC Player of the Year, might be a little off, but
she may come back with a vengeance.
Right. But FAC Player of the Year for Butts, and only a sophomore, so comes back for her junior year this year. 294 kills. I don't know if it's a question or concern, but, obviously I'll use football as an example. You have a receiver who, maybe has, 1,000, 1,200 yards with a certain quarterback and goes to, a different team with maybe a quarterback of a lesser caliber, only 600, are not going to have quite the same season. So you wonder, in volleyball, if you have a different setter, if maybe the chemistry there is a bit different. But with Courtney Carter graduating, she was had 183 kills. That was second on the team. So you think that maybe opens up more room for Butts to, maybe get north of 300 kills in a season. I'm just, concerned on who's going to step up as a setter and if that will really affect the kill numbers, or what the chemistry will be there with Butts and whoever fills in that role for Ferguson. Now, for my 2023 pick, I'm going to go with Chillicothe. They were the only team last year within the FAC to take a set against Miami Trace. You bring back Avery Cox, who obviously is the clear setter for Chillicothe. He had 328 assists. That was a team high. The only All-FAC player returning for the Cavaliers was ranked 18th out of 30, and our players to watch. They bring back 3 of their top 4 in digs, so obviously the defense there for Chillicothe should be relatively stout. And then you lose a couple of your top killers, but you also bring back Addison Smith, who had 112, was second on the team, and then Sam Schoblock had 90, which was 4th on the team. So for my player to watch, I actually had Addison Smith. I feel like with Olivia Beatty graduating, she was first on the team in kills. I feel like that'll open up a lot more room for Smith to maybe get north of 200, maybe 250 kills and average 2 or 3 a set. So yeah, Chillicothe, that's who I'm going to go with in the FAC.
Yeah, I like that. Those are some really good athletes they have, and it seems like they're gelling really well also. So next, I'll take the Southern Ohio Conference 1.
SOC 1.
The 1. They are the ones. Last year's winner, now this is going to be for girls sports. I think when we preview girls basketball and soccer will be very similar. The league winner was Notre Dame, 21-5 last year, district runner-up. I don't see any reason why they wouldn't repeat. It's their league until someone rips it away from them. Not like just pulls it away. It's got to rip them away.
Right.
With Brianne Hicks, Gwen Sparks, who just committed to University of Pittsburgh on a softball scholarship. So
like the actual University of Pittsburgh. I know there's a couple that are like branch schools. Okay.
Yeah. So she's going to go pitch at Pitt, and that's pretty good. I mean,
right.
There's not a whole lot of, it's not like baseball where they rotate a bunch of pitchers. I know they rotate more in softball than the high school level does, but still, if you're going to play at a Division I school in the ACC or whatever league it's going to be in, the Big East. I don't know what it's going to end up being.
I know the Big East is still around in basketball. I'm not sure if baseball and softball. I don't know if it'll
eat it up. And
the conferences.
Who knows where Pitt's going to end up? But it's a Division I conference, and she's going to go pitch there. And I mean, that's high level. So very good athlete there. And Katie Strickland, they all return at the net. So big athletic group. Opponents are going to really have to play an elite defense to even slow their attack down. They want to try to get back to the regional level after losing to Trimble the last 2 years in the districts. So a player to watch from that team, I have Maddie Entler. She's a junior setter. Last year had 782 assists as a sophomore with only 33 errors. While also being, a good defensive player, does a good job, when she's on the back line. And, 782 assists with only 13 errors is just crazy. Because,
it's a pretty high percentage.
Yeah, I really have noticed the double hits more, like the double connections. And, setters can get that called on them a lot. And she only got 33 of them. That's very impressive, especially with how often she's setting up Hicks, Sparks, and Strickland.
All right.
Really impressive. If she can carry that production over again this year, I'd look for the Titans to make a push for another district title and make that return to the regional level.
I've always kind of been intrigued with the statistics of volleyball because it's really the only sport where the numbers and the stats are just ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Like with digs, you have players with 500-600 in a season, then assists, we've seen 700 or 800. In football, it's like, oh, you had 20 touchdowns. That's insane. Or like in baseball, hit, I guess average really isn't the same, but 25, 30 RBIs, that's pretty good. And even soccer, 20 or 30 goals, that's pretty solid. But then you go to volleyball, and it's like, oh, 20 or 30 digs, that's not very good. You had 500 digs and 850 assists.
Yeah,
it's just
one of the things that the only thing I'll say about volleyball stats that I disagree with, There's a girl from Medina graduated a couple years ago named Jenna Martin. On one rally, she blocked 4 kill attempts.
That's what. Well, right, because you
But
can.
they ended up losing the point, so she didn't get credit for the block.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So because like I marked them all down, and as I'm like putting them up on my website, SVC Sports talk.weebly.com, as I was getting ready to put them up there, I got the stats from Coach Smith, and it was like she had like 2 blocks. I'm like, she had 4 on one play.
So you only get a block if your team
gets the.
that's a four block swing.
Yeah.
So if they would have got the point, would she have gotten
She
1 or
would've only
4?
got 1.
Okay, so it's limited to 1 per set.
Yeah. Where digs are different.
Right,
because
digs you can get 4 or 5 in 1 set if it goes long enough.
Yeah. And obviously assists you can only get 1
Right.
on each kill and whatnot. But yeah, it was something I didn't realize until actually started covering
Right.
volleyball. Like I had seen it, I was like, oh, that's pretty awesome. Oh nope, didn't get any credit for it. So there's my rant on volleyball.
On my
Stats.
block statistic for volleyball. All right, for the SOC 2 last year, it was Wheelersburg and South Webster, both 15-1. They obviously, I believe, split with each other. I didn't write that down for some reason, but I'm pretty sure they did split with each other. 24-2 for Wheelersburg, 23-3 for South Webster. For the 23 pick, I think I'm going to roll with South Webster. I think they have a lot more coming back, and for Wheelersburg, I'm going back to the sets played statistic. They had 6 players with 85 sets or more, so they were already kind of only playing with like 1 lineup. Well, they graduated 4 of them, so there's going to be a lot of shoes to fill for Wheelersburg. Out of the remaining players with sets for Wheelersburg, it was 8 or less, so they had 6 with 85, and then I can't remember how many were like 3 or 4 with 8 or less, so there's going to be a lot of people that have to step up for the Lady Pirates. For South Webster, they lose Natalie Atkins, who was first on the team in kills with 216. But they bring back Skylar Zimmerman, who was an All-SOC 2 member, and then Michaela Raynard as well, who was the sister of Riley Raynard, who just graduated. She had 135 kills, so that's another area where somebody could step up and fill the shoes there. I would say both of those could probably get north of 200 kills if they stay healthy. I mean, obviously you can't really predict, injuries and whatnot, but, if they were both to stay healthy, I think they both could get north of 200 kills. And also South Webster brings back their top 5 in the dig category. So obviously going to be good defense there for the Jeeps, who I might add is probably my favorite mascot. Like if there was one mascot I could have like a stuffed animal
Have you seen them with the actual Jeep mascot?
Like South Webster, they have somebody that they have a suit.
Yeah.
Oh, there's no way.
So the first time I ever saw it was at the Convo. And this is probably
That's had to been a long time ago.
So this must have been like 2005. And they come running out on the court, and they're just led by this red
like
thing.
Clifford the dog.
And I had
looking.
no idea. I had no idea. I just thought it was the car. And I didn't know it was the character from
like
Popeye.
a Jeep Wrangler, like the car.
I just thought it was like, how you does the Sherman tanks. I thought it was like a Jeep like that. Yeah. Either way, doesn't make a ton of sense. But
I don't know. Is a Jeep an actual I know it's a cartoon thing.
Yeah, it's
but
a character from Popeye.
So it's not like a.
No.
Like you don't go to Australia and there's Jeeps running around. Okay.
No. So the Jeep ran around. I'm like, what in the world is this thing? And then it ran back and it was gone. It didn't stay out for the game. It just ran out on the court and went around.
That'd be a cool headgear to throw on like Lee Corso.
Yeah.
Just throw on the Jeep head.
Yeah. The Jeep came from they had a red box. I think it was early days of basketball. They had a red box by almost like this table, and someone referred to it probably on a newspaper as the Jeep because it was like the character from Popeye. So,
well, nonetheless, definitely my favorite mascot, and
it's outstanding.
Oh, absolutely, and it's unique. It's not a, not to dig on anybody, but like Tiger, Panther. I mean, those are pretty traditional mascots. Then you get some of these, even Wheelersburg, as a pirate. I mean, that's pretty unique. There's not too many of. I couldn't name another one.
Ship at Miller Stadium too. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I haven't been to. I played baseball at Wheelersburg, but I've never really been to the football. I know it's close, but like at Tampa Bay, that kind of thing.
Not the full thing, but it's got like the galley and stuff.
Oh,
it's
okay.
got like the bird's nest or
the crow's nest. There we go.
Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, hopefully we can get down there and cover
at some point. Yeah,
because it's real fun.
But back to South Webster, Skylar Zimmerman. Returning all SOC2 player, and I also said Michaela Raynard, I think, can step up in a big way for the Jeeps. You know, we talked before how the player to watch thing is kind of for like an under the radar type player that, you know, obviously is a player to watch. You're saying, hey, look at this person. They're not getting maybe the recognition they deserve. Well, player to watch is Bella Claxton. I mean, I think that's just, I mean, you just kind of have to. I mean, all SOC2, I think SOC2 player of the year in volleyball as well. And also had 193 kills on top of the 799 assists she had last year. I mean, there's not much else you can say about that. I mean, and we did, I don't think you were there, but it was me, Mike, and Tom had a chance to watch her over at Logan when I think they played Meadowbrook at Logan. Okay. I can't remember who played. I know Adina and Wheelersburg were over there, but I think Meadowbrook actually beat Webster, and then it was Wheelersburg and Webster, maybe, or Wheelersburg and Meadowbrook.
Yeah.
But then
because the Meadowbrook people weren't happy because Mike and Tom were emphatically calling the match, which is what they do, and they're like, oh, they're rooting. And
oh like, no, man, well, Meadowbrook, that's Byesville, and I don't even know where that is.
It's over Zanesville way.
Okay,
it's not close.
And then for another player to watch, I wrote down Addison Claxton as well, the younger sister of Bella, which really, I mean, if your name is Claxton at South Webster, there's a pretty good chance you're pretty solid in volleyball. And you have Darcy Claxton, who was co-coach of the year as well. So I would say the SOC2 title runs through South Webster and maybe through the Claxton household as well. But yeah, I'm taking South Webster in the SOC2.
I'm going to say, and their dad is the soccer coach.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, was an awesome soccer player.
For boys or boys?
So it's a very athletically gifted family, especially through that community. So they're very fortunate. Now, I will say, I'll throw this on Wheelersburg, that it seems like they always find somebody. They always have some size. They'll be very good, but that senior class they just graduated was very, very good. So,
like, I found it because obviously the way we're splitting it up, I have the SOC2 for most of the stuff, and you know I find it kind of hard to pick against Wheelersburg just because it's like, you know, it's Wheelersburg. They're going to find a way to compete no matter what. But I just feel like South Webster has too much coming back, and you know Wheelersburg obviously lost. You know, that 23 class really across all sports was pretty insane for them. So
well, and Claxton and Zimmerman both played in the state a couple years ago when they made it with South Webster. So they have a lot of postseason experience too. So I like that pick. So we're going to move on to SHACtion.
We got to get more SHAC. Obviously, we can't have football SHACtion, but we could maybe get some volleyball SHACtion in here this year.
They do some Friday night football down there.
All like club stuff?
No, soccer.
Football.
Football, yes. They'll play some Friday night games there in that league. So every once in a while you'll see like Fairfield at Lynchburg Clay on like a Friday night. Yes. So they take advantage of the fact they don't have football. Now, West Union, Manchester.
Well, I know some of them play like club stuff or
club. Well, Manchester's actually has a team.
Oh, they're like OHSA affiliated. Yeah, I didn't know that.
And then West Union and North Adams, I know, are club.
So who does Manchester play? Just like SOC1 teams?
A lot, yeah. Not to the extent, like when we get to the football preview, I'll go into that a little bit.
Okay.
But yeah, they play a lot of those teams, and they'll play some of those schools in Cincinnati too that are smaller but don't have conference affiliation. But staying on volleyball, instead of getting too off topic, last year, now the SHAC is kind of unique in that their conference is fluid in a way, where if the size of the school changes, you can switch divisions because it's big school, small school. And last year's winner in the the SHAC one was Fairfield. They finished 18-4, but they moved
The
to
SHAC
SHAC
2.
2 and switched with Peebles, who won SHAC 2.
Right. So the league winners have flipped.
Yes, so the league winners have flipped. Now, for Peebles, their only loss in league play last year was to North Adams. So
Right.
they got them twice now instead of just once. So that's the other thing I like.
Is that
about
how
the
they
SHAC.
split it up? It's
You-
twice against those in
your
your league
division.
and then once against the other?
Yeah.
That's cool.
So that's how they get to their 13. So you play
okay.
with 5 and 5. You play,
So that's so going cross division, that still counts as league play. Okay.
yeah. So that's why like sometimes the smaller division will have a team win by 2 or 3 games, but they lose a couple games to the bigger division. But yeah, going to my pick for 2023, I'm going to go with the Peebles Volleyball Club. I think it's going to be really tight with North Adams. North Adams returns Caitlin Berger, who was outstanding at the net in the service line for them, and Natalie Reagan, who had 664 assists last year as a freshman for the Green Devils. Now, but they did graduate.
Keaton Hupp.
Yeah, graduate Keaton Hupp, and she was outstanding all around. So they do have a lot of things to replace. Now, for Peebles, they did graduate a good bit, including their setter from a year ago, but they do have an elite defender in Ellie Stevens, and then they have a trio at the net who are really good at finding openings on the floor, and Cadence Carroll, Angel Gray, and Bailey Johnston. Johnston and Carroll are seniors. Gray is only a junior. All tall, long. We saw them down at Minford.
Oh, for the
basketball.
sectional. Is that a sectional final?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they have some really good size, good athleticism. If they can find a setter to set them up, though. They play good defense at the net, those three. But for me, the player to watch is Ellie Stevens. She's a senior libero. She leads them with great defense and passing, and she can really set up the offensive attack. So her passing ability is going to be key with whoever the new setter is to get them set up. And that's one of the things I really like in volleyball too, is like you'll see sometimes just one player is just covering that entire back line.
Right.
And that makes it to where communication isn't as vital if you have someone that can fly all over the place. And everything that I can see is that's Ellie Stevens. So I think they'll have a good chance to repeat, even though it would not be a repeat. I don't know what you would call it.
I think that counts as a repeat. I mean,
the SHAC champion.
Right, and I mean the fact that even if you play cross division, it still counts as league play. I think it counts as. Now I'm not sure how you would put that on a banner.
Right.
I would probably just put SHAC champions, and then have like the year, and then like maybe a division column.
Yeah.
So especially. I mean, some schools probably don't switch.
Yeah, like Lynchburg stays the same usually.
But like teams that I don't want to say constantly, but have the chance of switching every year probably would want to leave a division column open so you can clarify which division you were in, because obviously it matters which teams you're playing twice and which teams you're only playing once. So,
but Peoples also has bragging rights over Fairfield because they did win the head-to-head last year, so they've got that going for them.
Yeah, that sectional final at Minford was definitely not my best day. That was a rough one.
Yeah.
Because we actually had Carson call that game because
you couldn't talk.
I was mute. That was bad.
Yeah.
I feel like something else happened that day, but I can't.
Oh, no, something happened the night before.
Oh, that was it. The Portsmouth deal.
Yes.
Because the guy for Minford,
Miles Montgomery's dad said something.
Oh, it was. I thought it was. Man, I can't remember the kid for Valley's name. Isn't his dad like the AD at Minford?
Oh, he wasn't there that night. I think we saw him at a different time.
Valley.
Yeah.
Man,
Copley.
Jace, yeah, his dad.
His
Isn't
dad,
he
Kyle.
the AD at Minford,
he's,
or is he a
Super.
superintendent?
Yeah.
Okay, but that's
Yeah.
not. It was Montgomery's dad who was talking to you,
Yeah.
because it was Minford at Portsmouth, and that was something.
That was something.
And you did. He was.
I didn't
Because he
move.
was. Yeah, I was
I
getting
didn't
ready to
move, so
say.
he said something to me about it.
He was like, you were just like stone cold, just right there.
Hey, I'll let the kids get out before me. I don't need to.
Well, I think that was that when you were having like I don't know if it was like back problems or something, or like you
that
couldn't.
probably wouldn't have helped. Yeah,
Like you were like almost
I have back
immobile.
problems all the time. Yeah, so I think we're all gonna have back problems from carrying this place.
Exactly.
In the
Yeah,
fall, but
we're gonna have people just clawing to get on here with us
Yeah.
by the end of it, hopefully.
But yeah, that was an interesting couple of days, and thankfully you had your voice, and thankfully Carson was there and was ready to do it. So
Right.
yeah. So
that was
big
nice.
ups to our guy Carson Francis.
Our boy OU Carson.
Yeah,
We need to get like a Rufus bobblehead or something in
Yes.
here for Carson. That'd be pretty sweet. But on to the SHAC 2. Obviously, we already mentioned last year was Peebles, now in the SHAC 1. So Fairfield kind of comes in as like a league winner from last year as well. But I'm actually not going with Fairfield. You lose Peyton McGee, who was second on the team in kills and digs. You lose the co-player of the year, Faith Miller, who had 684 assists for the Lions. And you also lose Paris Priest, who had 146 kills. That was third on the team. For Fairfield, I keep going back to the kind of the sets played thing, because for me, I think experience is a big deal, because going from JV to varsity, the speed changes, and really just like the title of going from a JV to a varsity player can kind of create some, I don't know if tension is the right word, but kind of get you, butterflies in your stomach or whatnot. And obviously that'll probably, diminish as the year goes on, but like for early season stuff, and especially in league play. But 6 of the 7 players who had 70-plus sets last year for Fairfield were seniors, so they only have one coming back that played 70 sets. So I'm going to go with the Rockets of Fayetteville Perry. I think they're going to get it done this year. They lose all SHAC Selection and Murphy, who was first on the team in kills and digs, which, just saying that is kind of like, okay, I don't know why you're picking them. Well, they returned 3 players who had 100 kills and 200 digs apiece. And they also lost their lead setter. So you think you lose your lead setter and your leader in kills, it's like, okay, it's going to be a pretty rough year. But I think when you return 100 players, or not 100 players, you return 3 players with 100 kills and 200 digs. I mean, I don't know. I think there's some potential there. And you also bring back Kinley Polston. And the 3 players are Kinley Polston, Katie Wolfer, and Victoria Thompson. Out of those 3, Polston had the most assists of returning players at 71, which obviously isn't a whole lot when you look at 388 for Sarah Wolfer. But I would say, she has the potential to, I don't want to say reach 388, but, definitely not limited to that either. So you could see her step up in that way and fill up in that setter role, and you could see Wolfer and Thompson excel in the kills category. And obviously I think Diggs will not get any lower, so they'll either remain similar or even increase. So for my player to watch, I actually went with just all 3 of them, because their statistics from last year were pretty similar. If I had to pick one, I would maybe say Kinley Polston, just because, I think statistically, obviously we can't really look at incoming freshmen as much. But I will say the SHAC Athletics website is
the best.
Phenomenal. It's the easiest. SHAC is the easiest sport to get statistics from. I mean, you can look back on, 2 or 3 years prior, look at all conference teams. So, if you have a player that's maybe a senior this year, you can look back at what they did as a sophomore, as a junior as well. So, the SHAC Athletics website is really well put together, and it makes it so much easier when we're doing stuff like this, because not every league, well, really pretty much no other league besides you with the SVC really has that. And some schools are pretty good about max, really for volleyball. You can find
really
most on Max Preps. What was the website you had me on for soccer? That was
the Ohio Scholastic Soccer Coaches Association website.
That made it a little bit easier. And some schools did have their own stuff for soccer, but obviously not everybody's going to have that. But for the SHAC, it's everything for every sport. So
the SHAC Athletics website is top notch, and it's I don't know if they're the same as some of those like Cincinnati area leagues where some of the leagues make the coaches have their stats in by noon the next day. Um, they prefer it that night, but at the very least they get it in that next day. So usually you can find whatever you're looking for. It may not be like immediate, but
at some point, right? Yeah.
So it's really nice, and like you said, it goes back a couple years. They just started it in 2021. That's why it doesn't
goes
go back further. Yeah.
Right. That's the last year or the oldest year. I know we've kind of been doing players to watch for like the team we pick, but I think for Fairfield, Joby Haddon is going to have a really good year. Obviously, Fairfield loses their top setter in Faith Miller, but last year as a junior, I believe Hatton was, or maybe she was a sophomore. I wrote down junior on my paper, but I can't.
She was a sophomore.
I can't remember if I wrote that down saying that's what she was or that's what she will be. But nonetheless, coming back, had 256 kills. That was a team high, and also had 330 digs, which was another team high. So I think Joby Haddon is a potential player of the year in the SHAC. But overall, I'm sticking with the Rockets.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good pick. I have one Fayetteville fact, and sadly it's not relevant anymore. A few years ago, they still had a Godfather's Pizza. They don't anymore.
Oh man, there was one in Chillicothe by Petland, wasn't there? That's where Cece's was too, wasn't it?
No, Cece's was where Los Mariachis is on Bridge.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Godfather's.
It was a different type of pizza. I think it might have been a Cardo's for like 2 weeks.
It was something else for a second.
Yeah, it was Godfather's. When I was growing up, we used to, after we'd run the Scioto Valley Youth League, we'd go out there and we'd get some pizza, and we'd
they had an arcade in there.
Yeah,
we'd
dominate the Simpsons arcade game. Once we beat the game, we go home. But I think Teenage Mutant Turtles in Time was one of the games we played there. But yeah, it's Godfather's was delightful. And
it's been a while since. I mean, it's probably been 10, 12 years since.
I think there's one. It's either in Indiana or in like Greenville, right near the border.
That was a chain. That wasn't like a family-owned thing. Okay, because I mean, you just mentioned the closest one might be in Indiana, so they're not too prominent around here. But
yeah, I had a buddy. We'll call him Dashing Kobe Rhodes, which is what they called him on 97.1 The Fan, because he worked there also. But we were watching a Twilight Zone marathon one year, and there's a Godfather's commercial came on, and
like old Twilight, black and white Twilight Zone.
Yeah,
we used to watch. They'd roll in like the cart with the TV on it, and our teachers would show us that in like 5th grade or whatever.
Yeah, that's when you knew it was the teachers were done for the day, is when they
roll in the cart with the TV.
But the Godfather's commercial came on, and it was a commercial or a Christmas time. Guy says, he says it in a New York accent, but it's like, "Deck the halls full jumbo pizza," and Kobe laughed for like an hour straight because it was just so ridiculous. But shout out to him; he just had his first child born on my birthday, so
get some pizza to celebrate.
Yeah,
go down to Indiana and hit up the last Godfathers. I reckon. What was the pizza place called by Eastern Brown? Like the Big Tomato or something?
Oh,
or the like jumbo tomato.
I just know it has gigantic pizza.
Yeah, because
Snappy tomato.
And I don't know if that, but that at what's the classic called down there? They gave us shirts and everything.
Yeah,
it's like,
I just know it's the Winter Classic.
Yeah, it was like the 3rd annual Winter Classic. I think that may have just been what it was called, but they had like a ton of pizza down there and all kinds of stuff, and those pizza boxes were like
massive,
like
as wide as this.
It looked like some like Man versus Food, like you eat the whole thing, you get it for free type stuff, and it was good. I mean, I'd never heard of it, and the logo was kind of cool too. Yeah. So you got to respect good graphic design. Because I'm guessing that's probably not a chain. I'd say that's, or it might be. I don't know, but
I think there's some in that general area, but I don't know if it is a chain. But
we got pretty off topic.
Yes. But now, when we go back to Max Preps, there was one school I found that did not have stats
for volleyball.
And it was an OVC member, South Point. was the only school I found that did not have stats. So, but going to the OVC, last year's winner was a co-winner between Fairland and Gallia Academy. They went 13-1 in league play. Obviously, they split, but Gallia won the rubber match because they played in the D2 district semifinals. So, it's the big thing with both of those two. They both graduated their setters, who both had big seasons for them. So my pick in 2023 is Fairland. Like I said, both teams lost their setters. I like what the Dragons return as far as hitters are concerned. I just think, defensively, they have a little bit more back, and there was a big margin between Gallia and Fairland and everybody else in the OVC last year. So I think it's going to be one of those two again.
And you picked Fairland?
I picked Fairland. Now, Gallia Academy, they have an outstanding program, and I think they'll be in contention. They have the best floor in Southeast Ohio.
That was the first, when we went over there for the Gallia Courthouse game, that was the most blue game I've ever seen. Because I think Gallia wore their home whites, and then obviously Courthouse comes in with the away blues, and the floors, it's not all the way blue. It's partially, I think the middle is blue, and then inside the 3-point line was
blue.
Oh, it's all blue?
It's different shades of blue.
Oh, man.
It was like a darker blue inside.
Oh, and the bleachers are blue. I mean, and I'm not saying that in a bad way. It's honestly, it's like you go into Boise State.
Very striking the first time you go into it.
All right, because you're just not, I think Lynchburg clay has it's not black, but it's
it's very
dark gray. Yeah.
And that's another one that's very kind of throws you off the first time you see it.
Just put on black 3-point line and just nobody knows where anything is. That'd make it pretty interesting.
But so that's one of my favorite floors. I do think it's going to be those two at the top. Now they both got to find a setter. But for me, the player to watch from Fairland is Chloe Mayo. She's a junior that led the Dragons in kills as a sophomore and probably should have another big season. She's got a couple other seniors. Kylie Bruce, probably no relation.
She's got to be a senior by now because we've been talking about Kylie Bruce, it seems like, for 3 years now. So
then Jordan Spencer's another senior. Kylie carrying on the Bruce family legacy. I don't know. Probably not.
Probably ask Ricky to figure that out for you.
But down Proctorville way, I don't know if we have anyone directly, but I also once told my brother I had one cousin. That was not true at all. That was way off. So, I can't really verify unless I do a 23andMe or something.
Or Ancestry.com or something like that. So that just leaves the MSL now for us. And, this is going to get pretty repetitive, but Bloom Carroll won last year, 22-4 overall, and then 13-1 in the MSL, split with Circleville, but Circleville also had a hiccup against Liberty Union, which caused Bloom Carroll to just win it outright. So for Bloom Carroll, I'm going to pick them again in 2023. I think Bloom Carroll is just, without offending anybody, I think they're just a step above.
Is it a wagon?
A wagon.
Yeah, they're a wagon. I don't know. You're a kid.
What do you mean they're what are you saying? A dynasty?
Kind of. I know what dynasty means.
A wagon.
Yeah,
I have no idea what you're talking about. But
I try to get on the TikTok and find all these things out, but I don't know.
Well, either you missed or I just need to catch up as well. But they're gonna need a. They're going to need a new setter. Caitlin Young is gone, had 859 assists last year for Bloom Carroll. They are returning two of their top three in the kill category with Evelyn Brown and Katie Marshall. They also lose McKenna Wiseman, which will hurt them a little bit as well. And the reason, I actually talked to Brock about this, which looking back on it, and I was kind of leaning Bloom Carroll anyway, and Brock kind of assured me on that pick, but considering Brock's picks in other sports, I'm not sure how reliable that is, but I stuck with it anyway, because Circleville losing 7 seniors, including Morgan Blakeman, who was an All-Ohio and had 400 kills for the Tigers. I just think Circleville may be losing a little bit too much. And yeah, I'm going to stick with Bloom Carroll. For players to watch, I picked Gabby McConnell. I think she's honestly a potential player of the year in the MSL. Had 261 kills last year, which was second on the team. Along with that, had 448 assists, which was first on the team. So really versatile for the Bulldogs. And, I would really only expect those numbers to go, especially, you have 448 assists. I would expect that number to go up, and maybe the kills as well. So,
yeah, it's Bloom Carroll's had a really good run currently of all athletics.
Right, that's why I was like, this is gonna for the MSL. This is gonna get very repetitive over the next 4 sports we do. But it's just kind of how it is, unfortunately, for everybody else in the Mid-State League. So we'll take a quick break to thank our sponsors, especially Ohio Health, along with Glockner Family of Dealerships, Willie and Son Trucking, along with Parmar Stores. They make everything we do here, especially on the live broadcast side of things at Southern Ohio Sports Authority possible. If it wasn't for them, John, we wouldn't be able to be sitting here right now. Or this weekend we're going, not weekend, but this Thursday we're going over to Portsmouth when they take on Valley. We'll get to that later. And then for our Friday night game, we're going to go over here to Waverly, and they'll take on Miami Trace. And no volleyball live streams planned for this week, but obviously as weeks go on and we get a little bit more organized as we fall into the fall sports season.
Well, it used to be everything had like a certain date when everything was starting.
Now soccer and volleyball is a little earlier.
Yeah, like they could have the football Friday night on the first week, and I think it was only like
I think my
2 or 3 places did it.
My senior year, we had our first football game before our first day of school. So we had our first game Friday, and then our first day of school was like the next Tuesday or Wednesday or something. So that was kind of odd, but
yeah, it's definitely they just change it a lot.
Right.
So like volleyball will be starting this weekend. Soccer, there's some games.
Soccer
some
already
games
gone
have
on. Yeah,
some
I think
games have gone
Saturday.
on,
I think Saturday was the first day for some.
Well, some played on Friday.
Oh yeah,
yeah, they could play on Friday, but yeah, just not very many played Friday or Saturday or really yesterday, and then it's going to really get into high gear next week. So that's one of the reasons why just us doing this preview's going to cover a lot of that stuff. But when we go to boys soccer, I'll start with the SVC. Last year's league winner, and I don't even know if 2 years ago they had a league. So like the SVC and boys soccer kind of.
Well, it's the same way for girls too. It's I think only 5 schools have teams, or 6.
5. So in the SVC, you have to have 5 schools competing to have a league officially through the league.
So you're saying a couple years ago they may have only had 4?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, last year they may have only had 4 because I don't remember us playing Southeastern last year. But Unioto last year defeated all the SVC schools that they did play. They went 17-2 overall. They were sectional champions. Kind of lost a little earlier than they were hoping to. Lost to a Gaia team, which I'll talk about later. That ended up pushing the Gaia team, almost knocked off the state runner-up in the regional semi, which was one of those central schools that the Southeast teams do not have much success against, but Gaia was right with them throughout it. So Unioto lost to a really good team, in the district semis. Now, my pick for 2023 is going to be Unioto, but I think with them and Zane Trace, it's going to be a lot closer than maybe some will expect.
Right.
It was a 2-0 game last year, but it was like
they only play once.
Yeah, they only play once. They play for the Roscoe Cup, which really
I've seen pictures, but I don't know what's the naming.
Literally, it was just Ross County.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we thought at first when they did it,
somebody's name was Roscoe or something.
I think I was in 8th grade was the first year we did it, and so it wasn't until I held it after my sophomore year, after we beat St. Trace, I was like, oh, okay. It just says ROSSCO, because at the time we were both Division 3, and Chillicothe was Division 1, and like Southeastern didn't have a team at that point. But then it's kind of grown, and I think Chillicothe was like trying to like nudge their way into it, but that never really became official because the trophy's got a Pioneer and a tank on it. So
Oh yeah, I mean
it's kind of hard to just.
I mean, it's called the Ross County Cup, but like
Yeah.
it's kind of just Zane Trace and Union, especially if it has those two logos on it. And then I mean, it could get really messy with 3 teams if they all beat each other. And
you probably have to put a sticker on it somewhere.
Yeah, because is it like engraved in there, like the logos?
Yeah, they have engraving on there. Yeah, it's a pretty cool trophy actually.
So do they make a new one every year? Or is it the same one and they just put like
the winning team brings
plaques on it?
Winning team brings it, puts it at midfield. Winner goes and gets it afterwards. It's pretty cool.
Has it been the same one forever?
Same one since 1998.
That's pretty cool. I'm surprised it's lasted that long.
So the bottom, I think it's probably going to only last like another 4 or 5 years.
I'd say it gets speed up after a while. I mean,
and the tradition of it is pretty much one team holds it for an extended period of time. So like Uniota won it for the first 6 or 7 years, and then Zane Trace won it for the next 5 or 6. Then it went back to Uniota, and they switched for a little bit. And now it's been Uniota more lately. But this is a very good Zane Trace team. They won last night 3-0 over Logan Elm. They had a hat trick from Reese Allen.
Okay.
He was one of their 3 players that scored over 20 goals last year. Also with the Chavez brothers, Ivan and Marco. And, Jordan Harrington is a 4-year starter on their defense. And then, Judah Hanks is excellent in goal. So they've got some nice talent. It's just, do they have the defensive depth to stop that Uniota team that is very tough? Uniota returns 82% of their scoring from a season ago, along with a kid who's already scored 100 goals in Lucas Haynes, which is currently second in Uniota history to Tyler Bryant, who won a Division II national championship at Ohio Wesleyan when he went to college.
So what's the number on his goals? Obviously over 100.
118. So
I'd say.
Now, this is one thing, though. He did miss the second half of his junior year, so I think that number would be closer to 140. But, Lucas already over 100. I think he'll.
But this season, pretty much just now, and Uniota most likely going to have 2 or 3 tournament games as well. So.
Yeah, and then also River Pettigrew is also going to be. He's going to have a chance to score 100 goals also. He's had an outstanding career. He scored their goal in the state semi a couple years ago. And then Camden Smith is another really good striker up top for him that can score. Probably has the most powerful shot on their team. They do have to replace a 4-year starter and goalie with Micah Geisey and then J.C. Stark in the midfield. But other than that, they return a defense led by Cameron Thompson and Owen Link in the middle. Thompson is the best defender in Southeast Ohio. Just bar none, he's the best defender. Which I know he got a mention in our top 10 players to watch for list, which I was happy with because he's just so outstanding. But, especially when you have a Haynes and Pettigrew, he may not get the hype because
a guy that maybe if he was on a team maybe of a less caliber and he was kind of the mainstay name, he might get a little more recognition. But with when you're on a team with 2 guys like that, it's
But so I think they'll be really hard to beat. With Thompson and Link on defense, they'll have a couple new starters on the wings. Jaden Gautz is another one that graduated, just was outstanding for them a year ago. Kind of came out of nowhere. So I think Coach Cortez is hoping that he can find a little bit of lightning in a bottle there. Now I do want to give a shout out. Now Westfall, I don't think will be able to hang with either of those teams, but I do think it will be their best season they've ever had. Now they haven't had a program for real long, but they've never finished over 500. Last year they finished 8-9-2, so they were right there until the sectional final. They lost to Valley. I think this is their best chance to win a sectional. This is their best team skill-wise. Henry Barnes and Josh Trapp. They've got a couple more juniors coming back. Barnes is a senior, but and then they have Brady Mullins in goal, another senior. This is their strongest core to date, so I do want to give Westfall a shout out there. Now, player to watch for Uniota. I mentioned all those names before. One name I didn't mention was Isaac Martin.
Okay.
He's a senior midfielder. He played a holding mid, more defensive mid last year. And now he's going to look to become more of a playmaker this year, along with trying to fill in the void of J.C. Stark, who was a big part of their offense last year. To continue their offensive attack. If he can step up in that way, this is a team that can make a deep run. They're not very deep, though. That's
Right.
the biggest thing, is that not a whole lot of depth. A lot of their depth are elsewhere, being really good players. Like I might have mentioned two of them already for one of the schools, and I'm assuming one of them will probably get named in your FAC preview. Some really outstanding players that have gone elsewhere, and that's kind of hurt their. So it's put some players into spots that, maybe they've been depth pieces, but for the most part, they've stepped up and done a really good job of it. So that's my SVC preview.
For the FAC last year, it was Chillicothe 13-4, and then also had one tie, so 13-4-1, 8-0 in the Frontier Athletic Conference. In FAC games, outscored opponents 41-4. So a pretty dominant year last year, and really when you look at the rest of the FAC, everybody else just kind of beat up on each other, because Chillicothe goes 8-0, and then after that, it's Hillsborough at 3-3-2, Jackson at 2-4-2, McLean at 2-5-1, and Miami Trace at 2-5-1. So, it's kind of, you lose to Chillicothe, and then you kind of just beat everybody else, and everybody just kind of, and those were league records. Yeah. I'm going to stick with Chillicothe for 23. I just feel like it's kind of, I don't know, I feel like I don't want to say a gimme pick, but that was kind of one of my easier picks throughout these lists. You bring back your not only FAC Player of the Year, but District Player of the Year in Caden Koch. You have
Cook.
Oh, it's Cook?
Cook.
K-O-C-H? Man, that was...
So my brother played Little League with his dad and uncle, and we were kind of family friends with them growing up. So, yeah. Cook.
Yeah, it was either... Yeah, that's not how I would have pronounced that. But Caden Cook comes back for his senior year. Last year, D1 District Player of the Year, also FAC Player of the Year, and an All-FAC selection. Now, and you also have your D1 District Coach of the Year in Mike McCorkle. So I think you have a lot of leadership coming back for Chillicothe. Now, you do lose 3 of your 4 All-FAC selections from last year with Danny Bentley, Mason Sibrel, and then Skylar Sray. So obviously those are going to be some holes to fill. I think I didn't have any other names to mention for Chillicothe, but it sounded like you may have had some.
They just have some depth.
Okay.
They always have just a variety of kids that can kind of step right in. Coach McCorkle's done an outstanding job with that program, and they kind of run the FAC.
Right.
Hillsborough and Jackson usually can be competitive at times. Miami Trace has had a couple really good players before. One went and started at Wright State.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I can't think of his name right offhand, but they've had some outstanding teams. McLean a couple years ago was really strong. So, but the one that stands out above the rest is Chillicothe. And if Chillicothe was Division II again, they would probably run the district.
Pretty dominant,
year.
Yeah.
When they had Tony Skoronik and Drew Basil, High State kicking great.
Skoronik. The only other time I've heard that name is the guy on the Rams. I didn't know that was a Chillicothe name.
Right. Yeah.
Somebody that went to high school there anyway. Obviously, most people in Ross County know who Drew Basil is, but
so it's a program that even when they graduate, some really good players like Danny Bentley at the end of last year was hurt too, so they had to play without him near the end of the year. But man, he was really, really good. But Cook can kind of do a little bit of everything, and I think they're definitely a team to beat, and I think that's a good pick.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
I know you're a big soccer guy.
Oh, I love football.
Yes. Football is life.
I mean, as you said, it's the world's. Well, I don't remember how you.
World's
The world's
game.
sport, the
Yeah.
world's game.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, because you can find it anywhere. And baseball, you can
baseball's
only find in Bhutan and
all Bhutan. That's where that picture was
Yeah.
from. That was a sweet picture.
yeah, it is.
It was like a dude hit, and I want to mention that was a bomb. That was
Uh-huh.
either a bomb or like an infield fly.
Yeah.
That had some launch angle on it,
Yep.
and it was right next. I mean, I don't know
It was
what
by a
statue that
of
was.
Buddha.
Buddha. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was sweet.
Yeah, it's a really cool picture. Now going to SOC 1. Now this is SOC 1 and 2
So,
are
so
kind
they
of,
are they together? Was this what you were talking about?
They are separate in boys, but
together in girls. So we'll
So,
we'll still split that. But then when we go to girls, you'll
Yeah.
take it.
yeah, I'll take that one. And so SOC 1 last year's winner was Valley. They went 12-5-1.
Oh, Valley's in the SOC
That's
one in
where I was
soccer.
gonna say it's kind of
I didn't
kinda
see. I didn't know
different,
that.
they're the sectional champions. They graduated a ton, and so
Well,
I think they'll still be solid, but I don't know, how good they will be because they graduated some ridiculous athletes and some really good players, and so that's why in 2023 I'm predicting the Flyers of Ironton St. Joseph
wow,
to win the SOC 1.
that's a pick.
Yeah.
That's
Now,
like
the-
on the level
Oh,
like my Fayetteville Perry pick.
Just wait.
Oh,
Wait till
I'm all
wait till you
ears.
hear the stat that I go
I'm all
with.
ears.
That I still am going to pick them. The Flyers played Valley 3 times last year. They beat them in the district semis in a shootout. It was the deepest run in school history before they lost to Williamsburg in the district finals. They have to replace Zachary Johnson, who had over 40 goals last year. I think it was 40. I think it was 49. It was either 48 or 49 goals last year. He was close to 100 for his career, and I think he might have ended up at 99. It was something
Man.
like it was, and like he hit the post a couple times in that district final. But they have a lot of experience back. They have the talent to win the league. They have to find some goal scoring, obviously, in that. But when I watched them last year, I was really impressed with them for a school that has as many kids as they do.
Is it a big? It's not a big
No,
school.
it
Okay, I
is
didn't think
the
so.
smallest
SOC school.
school in the state.
Oh,
That plays sports, they are the smallest school in the state by enrollment numbers. So
so we're talking like 20 kids in a graduating class or something, or like, do they
Maybe.
have 100 kids in their high school?
no,
That's insane. No, like
So-
that's crazy.
yeah. So
Like I think it,
I believe they don't have 50. Yeah.
they don't have 50 kids that go to high
They
school.
don't, I'm not 100% sure.
That's
because
ridiculous.
Listed on their enrollment figures, it's like 17 and 15
For
boys
Like,
and girls.
oh my gosh.
Yeah, and the fact
is it private?
Yeah,
Okay, so
and the
that's
fact that they're good at sports
that's crazy.
is what's really crazy about it. So shout out to Ironton St. Joseph for
I mean, if
having the success that they have.
yeah, I mean you
but
don't have a lot to pick from.
The big thing
I
is
mean-
the kids come out and play, like, so usually if you go there, you're gonna play something.
Well, we had them in that tournament game over at the VA. I can't remember who they played.
Yeah,
Was it
it was good.
Fairfield?
I think it was. Like,
I don't even remember who won. I know Carson had that game.
yeah, I
But
think it was Fairfield won that, but they're a good baseball.
I mean, the fact that they could even get to a district final with, I mean, you only have 17 dudes I mean, we probably had 17 players on our team. So,
yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine they have much more than just 9.
right.
I mean, I didn't really get a good look into the dugout or anything, but
Well, and one of the places I coached at before was Wilmington, and we were the smallest Division I school in baseball, and we had like 25 kids total in the program, and we went down and we played Mason in the sectional final, and they were the biggest school in the state,
Man.
and they had 28 on their varsity roster. They had 6 kids not even in uniform for warm-ups or anything, and I'm sitting over there like, I don't think we're gonna win this, as they benched their they didn't start their ace against us because they just started a kid that was going to pitch at Xavier.
Well, I mean, baseball, I mean, in my opinion, is probably the most important game to have numbers with. And, like, obviously we'll get into that once we hit the spring. But, like, when you have 25 dudes on your varsity roster, I mean, you have POs that are literally only there to play every 5 days. I mean, even at, like, a school, like, you know, I went to Uniota, but we probably had 12 or 13 players on our varsity roster, maybe 14, but we didn't have POs.
Right.
I mean, we may have had one, but, I mean, when you get into the 25, 26, I mean, you have guys that are, like, strictly middle relief and closing. And that's all they do. I mean, they don't have to practice on infield drills or even hitting. I mean, you just DH for them, and they just it's just a different look when you have pitchers that's it. That's all they do all day. And, yeah, numbers are, in my opinion.
Numbers are nice.
Yeah, baseball is a big numbers game.
Yeah, so my player to watch for the Flyers is senior goalkeeper Evan Balestra. He's really good inside the goal. He's a really good athlete overall, 3-sport athlete, like I think most of the kids end up being 3-sport athletes there. But he had 138 saves a year ago. He also had multiple saves in the shootout against Valley.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, having an excellent guy in goal is really going to help kickstart that team. And then I think, you know, from what I watched, they're really well coached. I think they'll have a good chance to make a repeat run, you know. If not, I could see Valley, even though they graduated a ton. It's a really good program. 2 really young but good coaches for Valley, and I think that they'll be right in the mix as well.
I think Ironton St. Joe's the fun pick. I think I would have made that pick as well. For the SOC2 last year, it was Wheelersburg 17-2 and 2, and then went 8-1-1 in the league. They actually split with Minford, who also went 16-3-1 overall, and then 8-1-1 in the league. But actually, I can't remember which league you were talking about where they actually played 3 times. But for Wheelersburg and Minford, it was actually another deal. But they still managed to split a 3-game series as they tied the first time around 4-4, and then Minford won 2-1, and then they met in the regional semi where Wheelersburg took that one 1-0. So really 3 just absolutely just strongly competitive games between those 3 teams, or between those 2 teams.
I covered that game. It was over at Chillicothe, and it was a great atmosphere too, which you can't always say for soccer. But man, when those 2 get together, those communities show up big time for them. So those were some outstanding games last year.
So I'll just get right into it. For my 23 pick, I am going to go with Wheelersburg over Minford. I know Minford has some pretty strong players coming back, but for Minford, they're going to lose half of their all-SOC selections from last year. They're going to lose the Defensive Player of the Year for the SOC2 and Charlie Neal. And for Wheelersburg, they're bringing back a ton of firepower. You're bringing back Max Higgins. I would assume that's how you pronounce that. After Cook, I've lost all faith in my pronunciation of these names, but Max Higgins coming back for his senior year, 47 goals and 17 assists. Led his team in both, and without a doubt the SOC Offensive Player of the Year. But you also bring back Nick Sylvia, who as a freshman had 43 goals and 15 assists. Those were both second on his team, which is why my player to watch is going to be Nick Sylvia, because I'd say it's not too often you have a freshman that probably scores over 20 goals, let alone 43. I don't know how often soccer players score 200 goals in their career. But
I think once in state history.
I mean, 43 as a freshman, you're not exactly on pace, but I would expect those goal numbers to go up.
Yeah. Probably it could stay the same this year just because Hagen's.
Right.
But like the next 2 years after this.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if just going off of these numbers from his freshman year, 150 seems pretty reachable. And maybe even a little bit more than that, because once Higgins is gone, you expect him this year probably 40 to 50 goals again. And then, once he graduates, that's 50 goals that are just nowhere.
Yeah.
And that doesn't always translate. You lose these goals, so they're all going to go to this guy. You're going to have other people that come up and, split. You could split 47 goals between 2 or 3 people.
Right.
But, yeah, Nick Sylvia, my player to watch, and I think I really think the offensive player of the year race could be just within Wheelersburg. It could be between those two guys. But yeah, Nick Sylvia, I think not only a player to watch for this year, but just the next 3 years. That's going to be somebody in the soccer community of our coverage area. That's going to be somebody you want to keep an eye on.
Yeah. So, the other player that I think could possibly be in that race is Miles Montgomery.
Yeah, I didn't exactly mention him in my Minford spiel, but I think you kind of figured that's who I was talking about a little bit. But
yeah, Miles is an outstanding, just overall athlete and really good soccer player, good scorer. But man, Higgins and Sylvia are
that's a 1-2 punch. I mean,
and Higgins can do it both footed.
Really?
Sylvia a little bit more right footed on that right wing for them, but man, that's a game to watch. I know we were going to talk more about it on future episodes, but a game to watch is this Saturday, Uniota at Wheelersburg, boys and girls. Soccer.
Which one is first? Or
girls are first, boys are second.
So do they have a soccer field, or do they play at the football field? That's cool.
Yeah. So, I believe our Derek Webb is going to be there for those two.
I think
games.
Brock might be going as well.
So yeah, that's going to be just a big time matchup between maybe the district favorites in Division II and Division III. We'll see. Uniota is going to have a freshman goalkeeper, Blake Egginger, and he's going to.
And this is like early season, right? Yeah. I mean, if this was a later season and he had some time to adjust, because obviously the speed, not only from JV to varsity, but you're talking middle school to varsity, so the speed is going to be just so much faster and just different. I did also want to mention, I don't think I said that Wheelersburg brings back 6 of their 8 all-SOC selections, which was a pretty strong factor in my pick for Wheelersburg to win the league as well. So
yeah, they are very well coached. They make deep tournament runs, and
it's Wheelersburg.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think
a lot of people don't like to hear that, but not only recently, but like the last probably entirety of Wheelersburg's at least in my lifetime, and I'm 21, so or 20.
I believe they're in the top 10 in state history in boys soccer wins.
That doesn't surprise me.
They've been a great program. They switched coaches, and when they did, they kind of switched philosophies, and it took a little longer. But with Coach Estep there now, it's literally better than ever, and they're one of the best programs in state history. So they reached the state semis for the first time, I believe, 3 years ago. I think when Higgins was a freshman.
Okay.
And I think they have a great chance to make it back there this year. I think this is the year they can knock off Grandview Heights, and fingers crossed they do, because those kids are great kids. Really fun to coach and cover. But yeah, I would like to see Wheelersburg knock them off. And so kind of moving forward, you're going to take
I'm going
SHAC
to
as
double
well.
dip here.
Yeah.
This was one of the things where the SHAC is just one kind of conjoined conference, because not everybody has a team. And I probably should have written down all the teams that did, but you have like Lynchburg, Clay, North Adams. I think Manchester has a team. Eastern Brown, I think, has a team as well. Fairfield, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
There was only like 6 or 7 out of, 14 or 12 overall?
Just 10 overall.
Okay, so it's 5 and 5 typically. So there's like 2 or 3 schools that don't have soccer, but the ones that do, they just conjoin them into one big old SHAC. So last year was Lynchburg Clay made an incredible run. I'd say, was that the first time they made it to the state tournament? Or at least for the first time. Oh, that's girls. I'm talking about boys now. But boys still does win the SHAC.
Yeah.
They go 12-4-3, 6-0 in the SHAC. They lose all 4 of their all-SHAC selections, and also the SHAC Player of the Year in Trey, either Pitzer or Peitzer.
I believe Pitzer. By the way, that was the name. The Miami Trace was Pitzer.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it was the Pitzer kid. It was a real good point guard. He ended up starting at Wright State for 3 years.
So they lose the SHAC Player of the Year in Trey Pitzer, also lose Ian Waits, Landon West, and Caden Fife. So all 4 SHAC selections are gone for the Mustangs, which is a pretty strong reason in me picking North Adams to win the SHAC this season. They only had 3 all-SHAC selections, but they do bring back 2 of them. Cody Hessler, one of them, 19 goals and 13 assists, and then they also bring back Hunter Brown, who had 21 goals. I think Hessler actually graced our players to watch cover.
Very dynamic and tough overall. And I know Brown's a very good player as well, but Hessler's the first one I think of when I think of North Adams soccer.
And then another, I don't know if you want to call it a statistic or just a fact about North Adams, is that they only graduated 4 seniors, and 3 of those seniors only played in 5 games. So you're bringing back a ton. And this is another one of those things where the player to watch is a little bit more obvious, not under the radar. I think Cody Hessler is just a pretty fair player to watch, potential player of the year in the SHAC. Obviously 19 goals, 13 assists last year. I don't know how often 20-goal, 20-assist seasons happen, but
that's typically
a candidate there for that potentially.
Yeah, typically if you can get 20 and 20, that's a district player of the year type player. Sometimes you'll have, a Max Higgins with 47 goals or 49 goals or Lucas Haynes with the 48 goals. But sometimes, you'll see the midfielders that are really dynamic. But yeah, Hessler is one of those. Now, one thing I'll say is Lynchburg's another one of those that's kind of like Wheelersburg, where they've constantly been really good, really talented. So, they'll have some kids ready to step in. They did lose a lot, and that was, I believe, might have been their winningest senior class because they made a couple of really deep runs with them. But I do agree. I think North Adams, this is probably going to be their best chance to make possibly a run to the regionals. Just kind of depending on how the tournament seeds play out. I don't know if they're going to be able to hang with Wheelersburg, but they're going to be a really good team, and with the SHAC not having football, it's a very good soccer conference.
Right, you get a lot more boys that are going to play soccer because you don't have. And I know we mentioned a couple do, but it's typically club or I think we said Manchester has their own.
They are strong kids because it's kids that would probably play football or playing soccer, so they're usually pretty skilled and very physical, and that's something that not a lot of soccer players love. So, that can make a big difference for them. I think, like you said, I think North Adams good pick. Now moving on to the Ohio Valley Conference, last year's winner, Gaia Academy, 18-2-2. They won their first ever district title. So they beat Uniota in overtime in the district semis. They were down 2-0. Uniota misses a penalty kick. Gaia comes back, ties it, and then wins in overtime. Then they go play. One of their 2 losses was against Athens, and Athens came in, I believe, with 1 loss because they lost to Chillicothe late in the year. And they absolutely annihilated Athens. It was 5-0. And apparently they called off the dogs early in the second half. Athens had 3 people get tossed.
Oh, players?
Yeah, I think they had 2 red cards for the players. Coach got a red card. It was a just outstanding,
killed their spirits.
Outstanding game by Gaia. And then their other loss was in the regional semifinal. They lost to Bexley 1-0 in a pretty evenly contested game. Bexley had more possession, more shots, but Gaia was right there with them. But they graduated 3 just outstanding seniors. So they graduated over 80% of their scoring from a year ago. Keegan Daniels, who I don't have it offhand, but I'm 90% sure he's first team All-Ohio. Just an outstanding overall player. I believe he's at Rio, which would be one of the biggest breakthroughs ever because no one that's American ever plays for Rio Grande. It's typically foreign-born players, and they dominate in NAIA. And if he can get on the field there, that just shows how good he really is. So they're my pick to win. I think the league is pretty wide open after them. I think that it's their league to win. Defensively, they only conceded 13 goals the entire season in 22 matches. So 13 goals, 22 matches. They return most of that side of the ball. So they'll be in very good shape defensively. A couple teams to look for, I think, are Rock Hill and South Point. They're kind of interesting teams in the OVC. And also, my player to watch from that team is Beckett Camden. He came on late in the season for the Blue Devils a year ago. Has potential to keep the Blue Devils at the top of the OVC for years to come, as he's a young player. I think he's one of those guys that, they've got to replace at least 97 goals from their big three from last year. But I think he's a guy that could definitely step in and make a big difference for them.
All right, well, we'll go to the MSL once again, which, as previously mentioned, it gets pretty stale going over the MSL. Not stale, but repetitive is probably a better word. Last year it was Bloom Carroll, 12-6-2, 7-0 in the MSL. They had 3 players with 19 goals. They graduated 2 of them, and then they also had 4 players with 10 assists, graduated 3 of them. Of those players, Charlie Gomez, Colin Levesque, and Dominic Keefe are the big 3 that left. Left alone there was Dan Hansen. He had 19 goals and 10 assists last year. So I am going to go ahead and pick Bloom Carroll in the MSL, and my player to watch will be Dan Hansen. I think statistically probably their best returning player, as he is the 1 out of 3 returning with 19-plus goals and the 1 out of 4 returning with 10 or more assists. So obviously with 19 goals last year, I would say it's mostly safe to assume he'll probably get north of 20 this year, somewhere between 20 and maybe over 30. I mean, depending on how the year goes. And then 10 assists, that could or should most likely stay the same and maybe even go up a little. But outside of Bloom Carroll, I know, we've kind of been sticking strictly for players to watch to, like, the team we picked to win. But I think Fairfield Union could be a potential sleeper team in the MSL, and I think Caleb Redding will be a big part of that, who is also, like, 6'5", on top of being a good soccer player, or a great soccer player, I should say. 25 goals, 7 assists in 2022. I would venture to say that will most likely go up. I mean, you get a year older, more mature, and another year of experience under your belt. So, the potential to get up to 30 goals, maybe 10 assists as well, a 30 and 10 year for Redding. I think he could lead a Fairfield Union team to potentially contend with Bloom Carroll for the MSL.
Yeah, Bloom Carroll is kind of the stalwart in the MSL, but Fairfield Union kind of came on, I don't want to say out of nowhere 2 years ago, but really came on strong 2 years ago. And a lot of it was led by a group of sophomores that are now seniors, led by Caleb Redding. So I think Fairfield Union, if they're going to get the MSL, they've got a good chance this year. But like always, Bloom Carroll is typically at the top, and, for a reason. They've been consistently strong for well over 20 years now. So it's a very good program, and, it's a good pick there.
So with the MSL, it kind of rounds out each of our sports the MSL does. So that leaves us with girls soccer. John, if you want to...
Yeah, before we get there, we want to make sure we thank our sponsor above my head here of McDonald's.
Thank you. Our very...
A McDonald's drink.
Our very recently acquired exclusive sponsor of McDonald's, making everything we are going to do here on SOSA Overtime possible. So a big thank you to the Golden Arches for getting us going here on Overtime. It makes a large difference in our abilities here at Southern Ohio Sports Authority.
Very helpful, and we thank them greatly. So going on to girls soccer, if we start with the SVC like we have been, the 2022 league winner was Uniota. They went 13-7. They were the district runner-up. But while they had 7 losses, a lot of that was to very good opponents, and that kind of showed in the fact they did not concede a goal in SVC play, which is not the first time they've done that, and may not be the last time, as they return a lot of strong players from a year ago. They're my pick to win in 2023. Once again, they'll have some losses in that non-league, but they have an excellent defense and outstanding goalkeeping, which should help propel them through SVC play. My player to watch for Uniota is senior Amelia Urick. She can play all over the field. She, is a big part of that defense and provides great leadership to the group. They're used to winning a lot. It's a
Winning culture.
yeah, winning culture. Coach Clark does a really good job there, and you know, with success breeding success, you do need good leaders, and I think Jurg is that next really good leader for them. Um, in goal, they have Maya Free, who's an outstanding goalkeeper, and Kaylin Bash is another outstanding defender for the Tanks as well. One thing to look for Zane Trace, they should score a little bit more this year. Aubrey Thomas is a junior, will have a full season ahead of her after moving with her dad.
Right, from Westfall.
Yeah, from Westfall to Zane Trace as the athletic director is now there. So I think that she'll kind of boost that Zane Trace team a little bit. I know they have good goalkeeping coming back there. So they're a team to watch also in that league. But that's all I got for the SVC.
So going to the FAC now, it's extremely similar across boys and girls soccer. Last year it was Chillicothe, 12-3-2. They go technically undefeated in the FAC, but they did have a tie, so they go 9-0-1. They do lose 3 of 5 All-FAC selections. They do bring back the FAC Player of the Year in Allie Mathis, and they also bring back Kiera Archer, who was a 30-goal scorer in 2022. For 2023, I am going to go ahead and pick the Cavaliers. I think anytime you can bring back a former Player of the Year, that's always a big bonus, not only in just straight-up skill, but just in leadership, and I think that can affect the team's morale and confidence. And if you have younger players that have, a Player of the Year because typically you get a Player of the Year that's a senior, and that's just kind of it. But if you have a player that wins it as an underclassman or a junior, then they come back for a year later, maybe a chance to be a 2-time Player of the Year and just kind of pass what they know on to younger players, which I think Alex Ursuline is an example of that. Last year, 9 goals and 3 assists. She'll come back as well and fill up some of the holes that were left by losing 3 of 5 All-FAC selections for Chillicothe. For my player to watch, I went ahead and picked Kiera Archer. I know we've kind of went back and forth on, for a player to watch, do you want to pick somebody that's, extremely obvious or, somebody that's under the radar? Well, I think Archer and Mathis are very, very close, but since Mathis was Player of the Year last year, I felt like Archer would be a more reasonable pick for a player to watch. Since she was an All-FAC selection, but since she didn't win Player of the Year, maybe not as many people are aware of what she did last year, which is why I'm picking Archer for my player to watch. But I think both of those players could have extremely, extremely good years, and I think the FAC Player of the Year could be a little competition just straight up at Chillicothe. Yeah. So.
One team to watch for also is Jackson, who ended up tying them last year in one of their matches, and they have the Carpenters, Walburn,
and goal.
Yeah, some really good players coming back for Jackson. So I think they would be a sleeper to maybe pull an upset, but it's Chillicothe's league until someone changes that. Now moving on to the SOC, there's only one division on the girls' side, as a Portsmouth Clay doesn't have a girls' team. A couple other schools don't, so they only have
Valley doesn't.
Yeah, Valley doesn't. So last year's league winner was Minford. They went 15-3. They did lose to Wheelersburg in the district semis, and Wheelersburg outstanding game plan in that night. And with Minford, they had Haley Knorr, who graduated as their all-time leading goal scorer. Was kind of banged up in that game, so she didn't play all that much. So Wheelersburg was kind of able to focus on Lexi Conkle, who I'll talk about here in a minute, to kind of take her away, and we're able to get to a district championship game out of it. So who I think will win in 2023 is Minford. Yep. They graduated Knorr, but they also return Lexi Conkle.
49 goals.
49 goals as a sophomore. She has a really good chance to cross the 100-goal mark this year, probably late September, maybe early October. Just leads a really strong team coming back. Wheelersburg, per usual, will be tough to beat. An outstanding defense. They did have a coaching change So maybe that will incorporate a little, maybe some growing pains, but maybe they just keep rolling off of that.
Right.
They also have an outstanding scorer in Bella Miller up top. Very difficult to stop. But my player to watch from Minford is junior Ava Cronin. That junior class is really strong for Minford on the boys and girls side. Cronin's a speedster, gives Conkle some help up top offensively. Will fill in a little bit of the goal scoring of Nor. And another player to watch, scored a game tying goal for them against Wheelersburg. I believe scored the go ahead goal against Rock Hill.
In the tournament?
Yeah. The game before, or no, it was the Wheelersburg game. She tied the game. It was Lexi Pendleton. She did an outstanding job for them playing super hard in the midfield. She could have a breakout season for the Falcons in a bigger role as well. So that's what I got for the SOC.
So for the SHAC, once again, it's just one big conference. There's not two divisions, as we've previously mentioned. Not everybody has soccer teams. So last year, obviously, Lynchburg Clay, what a year they had. 20-2-1 overall, 7-0 undefeated in the SHAC, all the way up to the state semifinal, which was a 4-0 loss to an extremely talented Cincinnati Country Day team. Now, were they the runner-ups, or did they end up?
I believe they won it.
So Cincinnati Country, they losing in the state semifinal to the state champion is definitely not something to hang your head about, but nonetheless, going ahead to this year, you do lose the SHAC Player of the Year in Kaylin Rich, led not only the team but the league with 30 goals and 17 assists. And you also lose all SHAC selection Carly Tipton, who had 15 goals and 13 assists. Now, you do return Jade Massey, had 15 goals and 8 assists, so I would expect her to take obviously we don't know what the roles of players are on teams in the locker room, but I would expect her to maybe be the highest on the totem pole returning and do a good job leading that team, as we've kind of mentioned that Lynchburg Clay in terms of soccer is one of those teams that's just kind of a mainstay name as a contender. Because, looking at stats, it's hard to tell talent level. It's more so opportunity. So there may have been a player that only had 2, 3, 4 goals, but when you have upperclassmen and seniors that are leaving, it gives them a lot more opportunity. So somebody that had 2 or 3 goals this year could erupt for like 20 goals or 20 assists or whatever. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Now, in terms of 2023, I'm going to pick North Adams over Lynchburg Clay. It was close, but North Adams does bring back a pretty solid lineup. You bring back Kinley Jones, Hunter Grooms, and Harley Brandon. Goal, Brand 100 in saves last year. The word around town is Brand is probably the best goalie in the district, boys or girls.
I would say so.
Kinley Jones, 20 goals, 14 assists, and then Grooms had 16 goals and 16 assists. So that's, 2 potential 20-goal, 20-assist players. My player to watch, I'm going to go ahead and pick Kinley Jones just because I really don't know.
Yeah.
But I just think Kinley Jones will be a good player to take a look at. All 3 of those players returning are all SHAC selections. So I just think in terms of returning talent, North Adams has kind of the best odds to win the league. But with Lynchburg Clay, it's hard to tell what they've developed over the summer and, what players that maybe didn't have as much opportunity last year will step into a bigger role this year.
Yeah, for Lynchburg, with Coach West there, one of my favorite interviews, he's won over 500 games. He did coach both the boys and girls at the beginning for Lynchburg. Now he's just the girls coach. And
it's a lot of work.
Yeah, he got those programs up and in really good shape. So he's gotten a little longer in his career, I think is just
take a little bit off the plate.
Yeah, but he's an outstanding coach, and he does a really good job of getting kids prepared to fill in new roles, like you mentioned. In the regional championship game, their goal scorer was a player that only scored once on the season and didn't play in their previous game. So you just never know. So he always finds a way to incorporate those players down the line for them. Now, in their regional semifinal game, they beat North Adams in a shootout. So I think you're spot on there with North Adams. They only graduated a couple kids. they didn't have very many out for the team. So I think that's kind of the thing with them is to look for on injuries.
Right.
If they can stay injury free, Kinley Jones, who I think I said during basketball is probably the toughest player
Pound for pound.
because she's not very big, but she does not back down from anybody at any point, and it's the same thing in soccer. And I think that's a great leader in the midfield. And like you mentioned with Brand, she's just awesome in goal. They have multiple grooms.
Yeah.
And it's just a really good program as well. They're well coached. I think that will be, those two teams will be battling not only for the SHAC, but also probably for another chance at a regional championship game. So I think that's a good pick. Now,
thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Moving on to the OVC. Last year's league winner was Rock Hill. They went 12-4-1 overall. They lost in the district semis to North Adams. Now they graduated Bree Reynolds, who's a top 20, 25 scorer in Ohio high school history. So that's big shoes to fill. She's going on to play. Then Hasley Matthews, who's going to go play college basketball, is another one that was an outstanding player. And then another one that's going on to play college soccer is CG or Siggy or
I think CG is
probably
CIGI.
Yeah,
I would say CG.
Yeah, let's go CG Pancake. My favorite name.
Probably a top 3 last name.
Yeah,
there's the dude for the Paints. I can't remember if he played this year or if it was last year's Trey Pancake.
Yeah.
If I had to pick any last name to give myself, it would probably be Pancake. I think that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's a very solid name. But they graduated with others from a historic class, so I don't know if they'll have the experience coming back to win it again this year. I think they'll be up there for sure, but my pick in 2023 are the Pointers of South Point. The Pointers went 9-7 last year, but they returned a bulk of their offense, along with Ella Cassidy and Nevaeh Huff in the midfield and Jaden Malone in goal. She split some time last year, but had a lot of experience in there. My player to watch from them is a junior, Jasmine Jones. The junior striker scored 34 of the team's 54 goals last year. She also assisted on 6 others. So, obviously, gigantic part of their offensive attack. She's an elite scorer. With her, I think the Pointers have a chance to compete on a nightly basis and possibly take the OVC title.
Sounds good to me. So for the MSL, rounding out the show, last year was Bloom Carroll, 19-1, 8-0 in the league. So it was a bit tough to find much like many individual stats, and I say like many, but like I couldn't find anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I could find rosters, but I mean, you can't really tell a player's impact by just looking at the roster. So I just kind of went with the hard numbers for Bloom Carroll. Last year, they outscored opponents 144-11. So that's a plus 133 goal differential for the Bulldogs last year. And out of those 11 allowed goals, only 2 of them came against MSL opponents. So, just an absolutely dominant year for Bloom Carroll. I think it'd be silly not to pick Bloom Carroll in 2023. And I'm not 100% sure what all they lost because, once again, I couldn't really find much on them on Max Preps or the site you recommended me to. But I find it hard to believe you're going to go from a plus 133 point differential to just not winning the league.
Yeah.
So I'm going to stick with Bloom Carroll, and once the year starts, and obviously some games have already been played, I'm not sure if Bloom Carroll has had a game. But we'll start to see kind of how the year's looking to go. And if we see some, 10-point shutouts, maybe we'll be trending the right direction. Or, it could be something completely different. But
I'm going to get you calling them goals.
What did I call them? Points?
Yeah, it's got to be goals.
That's like runs in baseball. Yes. Yeah.
It's all right. He's learning. So, but there is a team to watch for there, which is Fairfield Union. They won a district last year in Division II in the Southeast District, but like you said, you don't lose, like, even if you lose a lot of talent, you still have those kids that had to practice against them, and they saw how dominant that team was. And you don't just, in most sports, you don't just completely fall off. And I think
Right.
at a school like Bloom Carroll, you don't completely fall off from one elite team to just being
Mediocre.
mediocre. So
And-
I would think at the very least they'll be very competitive at the top. I know Fairfield Union lost a really good senior class, so but it's a really good program there. So I think those two will probably be at the top. Circleville also has some nice talent coming back, so I think they'll be kind of in the mix in there as well. So I think with the MSL, it's a very good league, and we'll kind of see how things go. But
Right.
I think Bloom Carroll's probably is the pick.
And with that, John, I believe that is all we have on this first episode of SOSA Overtime presented by McDonald's. I'd say it was a very productive episode. We got a lot covered, each league across soccer, boys and girls, along with volleyball as well. So,
yeah, and if there's anything we missed or any issues that we may have had, this is the first one.
Including-
We're going to get them ironed out.
right.
But any players, any teams to watch we missed, just comment below. And
Or maybe comment any impactful player for
Bloom
Bloom
Carroll.
Carroll's girls soccer team, because I struggled to find much on them. So,
Yeah, so I mean, anything that we can do, any help we can get to get as many players recognition as
Right.
possible. We try to
Yeah.
get out and watch games every night, but it's
when I was
like, what do we do? 6 leagues with 8 divisions.
It's 6, but even with like the SOC, sometimes it's 2 of them. So
Right.
it's like at most like 8, and
Yeah.
then sometimes 6.
And then we also, I believe, cover Logan. So
And some TVC teams
yeah,
as
and
well.
some TVC teams. So we try to get out and see as much as we can, but there is the chance that we may miss. So anything you guys can help us with is great, and we appreciate any help. Just be nice.
And I would, and obviously, like, this is a preview, so it's gonna be more focused on who will win the league. But like as the year goes on, and it's more like independent game reviews, there's gonna be a lot more like in depth, like for each team.
Yeah,
So yeah, it
So
should
we'll
be
hit-
a
we'll
fun
hit-
time here.
we'll hit on everybody by the time the
It
season's
should,
over.
it should be a fun time here on SOSA Overtime presented by McDonald's. But I believe that is all we
Yep.
have here for today. Check back. By the time this is uploaded, it will be tomorrow on Thursday
Yeah,
that the football edition of our preview approach here at Overtime will be uploaded. And then we'll have the Thursday night game with Valley and Portsmouth. And then Friday we'll be over here at Waverly
Yep.
for them against Miami Trace. So it should be a fun week of fall sports. And yeah, until next time, this is Dewey Dailey along with John Bruce signing off on SOSA Overtime presented by McDonald's.
Too legit to quit.